The Northern Pacific was organized into operating divisions. When I went to work, there were 7 of them. The Coleman Division went to Yakima, and then the Idaho Division went to Paradise, Montana, Rocky Mountain Division to Glendive, and so forth and so on east. Well, each division had a headquarters with a superintendent. He was the big boss supervising everything. And then there were road masters and signal supervisors and train masters and a dispatcher's office. And that's where the operation was controlled from. And that was at that window right there. It was open year-round, 24 hours a day. And that's how, on single track, opposing trains were directed to get out of each other's way. And if there was a slow train ahead of a fast train, well, you get the slow train out of the way. And that was all done from there. 1943, when I went to work, this was the inside of the dispatcher's office. That's Andy Kelly there. He had control of the trains from here to Centralia. Bucky Waters was what they call the Mountain West, from Auburn to Easton. Over there is the Mountain East, from Easton to Yakima. Before and after the war, it was one territory all the way east of the Yakima, but they split it because of the heavy traffic during the war. Maynard Hanson behind there has a Centralia to Vancouver and Portland. Fred Bradbury has all of the branch lines, and there weren't any telephones on the branch lines. You see the other desks, I guess you can't really see it from here, have loudspeakers for their party line telephones that the dispatchers had. The branch lines was all Morse code. A lot of theirs is Morse set right there, you can see it. Out of the picture is the fellow that did the Tacoma to Seattle dispatching. Later on, they modernized the office and made kind of separate cubicles for the dispatchers to make it a little more quiet. And the dispatchers would dictate their instructions to the telegraph operators at the wayside stations along the way. Like there was operators at Puyallup and Sumner and Auburn and Kent, and then all the way across the division. There were probably every 8 or 10 miles there was a station where there was an operator that would copy these instructions from the dispatcher and then put them in a string on that port. This is amazing how antiquated the system was this day. And then the engineer, in this case the fireman, and the head brakeman and the conductor would each grab a string with their instructions. And there was a signal on the station, a yellow signal if a train was supposed to pick up orders on the fly. And if the signal was green on the station, they didn't have to get any orders. If it was red, they had to stop and get off and get their orders, which was done if there was an order restricting them right at that point, telling them they couldn't go any farther. And this is what a train order looked like. They were, most operators typed their orders, but a lot just wrote them by hand. This was an order that was put out in Vader, addressed to conductor and engineer. CNE stands for conductor and engineer. Non-scheduled train, extra UP 2167 going west. And it tells it extra UP 2167 west way to Winlock, extra GN 3210 west to N number 407, way to Vader and other western trains except work extra 1548, way to Kelso into log extra, CMST P&P, that's Milwaukee 53 east to right. Long trains had to be standing still when they met other trains on double track. That's just an example of a train order. Well, progress. They finally did away with this on busy main line sections with this handwritten system, and the dispatchers were able to flip a little lever and line a switch at a siding any place on his territory. This was the the south end dispatcher territory, and that's the Vancouver track layout, Ridgefield, and then so forth on up the line. So that was a much improved system over this old Henry. Right. Now, jumping ahead to merger, as I said, there was a dispatcher's office in each division headquarters, and there were 7 of them on the NP, and of course the Great Northern also had a comparable number of offices. Well, since merger, they have moved all of the dispatchers for the entire Burlington, Northern Santa Fe. Now that's from Chicago to Los Angeles up to here, Seattle to Chicago, St. Paul, Minneapolis. They're located in Fort Worth, Texas. The dispatchers sit at the TV screens that display the track layout. And they can touch a switch on that TV screen in Fort Worth, and it'll line a switch here in Tacoma. So that's
What year was this?
This is probably 5 years, well, 2 or 3 years ago. I called the DN down there and asked them if they could send me a slide to use in programs like this, and they did.
This is essentially the way it still is right now.
Yeah, this is, it's called the NOC, Network Operating Center.
30,000 miles of railroad from one spot. Roll from one spot.
Okay, now going back to when there were all of these stations along the way, and with the operators handwriting the orders and delivering them. Another thing that these stations did, there was no UPS or Federal Express. No UPS or Federal Express or anything like that. If you wanted to send a message quick, you'd go down to the town station, send a Western Union telegram. There was also Postal Telegraph, Federal Telegraph, several different telegraph companies. And you can see the operators tapping out a message on the key. And all of the depots had pot-bellied coal stoves, a little drafty in the winter.
The Milwaukee Railroad heading? Where did the Milwaukee Railroad head across Montana?
When did they quit?
Were they part of this?
Milwaukee, no, the Milwaukee went bankrupt in 1980. They weren't a part of any merger. They were, various segments of Milwaukee were absorbed by like Canadian Pacific. Now this is the actual photo inside a small town railroad station, and there again is a pot-bellied stove. Now, I don't know just how far, how broad a scope your society has, but I thought I'd start at Tenino and work this way. The original Northern Pacific, as I said, came from Kalama to Tacoma, getting in here in 1873. And the part of the track from Tenino to Tacoma was called the Prairie Line. It wasn't until 1940, Prairie Line. Could have come from Yelm's original name was Yelm Prairie. So that could have had an origin there. Now, it wasn't until 1914 that the water level double track line was built around Stella coming.
That was when the Stoughton Railroad went on. 1914?
1914, December 1914. I'll get more into that later.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a typical small town station. Many of them had the telegraph office and the agent's office there where he did his business. There was always a warehouse over on one side where they, I mentioned the sending telegrams. Also, if you wanted to send a package, you come down and send it by Railway Express. And Railway Express had several predecessors, one of which was the American Express Company, but later on became Railway Express. So that was where they kept their small package freight mail sacks, a lot of mail went by rail. And upstairs was living quarters for the station agent. Probably his wife right there. And this is the station, it says Tenino on it there, but when they built the Point Defiance line in 1914, this became West Tenino, and they built a new station on the new main line double track, made of Tenino stone. And since then, with 800 numbers and centralizations and different methods of train control, most of these small stations have been closed, practically all of them. The station at Tenino was closed and it's been moved to a city park on the east side of town.
Stone by stone.
Huh?
Stone by stone, it was moved over there.
There's a very nice little museum. Quite a number of railroad artifacts in it. Well, coming up the Prairie Line is, there's a little station there, a little shelter, and that's at Macintosh. And there was a pretty big sawmill there at the time. I guess this is a good time to mention that the Northern Pacific built the line. Well, the Union Pacific and the Great Northern both wanted Seattle to Portland access. Union Pacific actually had a franchise and I guess did a little bit of construction. But then in 1910, an agreement was made with the Union Pacific Great Northern with the Northern Pacific for trackage rights for their trains to run over the Northern Pacific. So, that was implemented in 1910. And in 1914, when the Point Defiance line was built, the UP and the GN had to pick one or the other. They couldn't use both of them. Union Pacific elected to go Point Defiance line. The Great Northern elected to stay on the Prairie Line because of the sawmills along the way. They were getting a lot of visitors. You see those Great Northern boxcars sitting there. And so they remained on the Prairie Line until 1943. And then they were pressured to get off the Prairie Line because they descended from South Tacoma down across Pacific Avenue. And their long trains were tying up the town traffic, and the city was after them to move to the Point Line. And coincidentally, some of these mills were shutting down, so they, in 1943, just before I went to work actually, they switched over to the Point Line, and it was NP only on the Prairie Line. That's the station at Rainier. Now this is a different style of station. The NP had about 3 different station styles. This one does not have the living quarters for the agent. He had to have his own home somewhere else. But again, they have the warehouse on one end for their express mail and list and cargo shipments. There was always baggage wagons parked there. They'd load their mail and express on the wagon when the passenger train came in and tow it up alongside the train, and the station agent or off there to transfer the mail on or off the train. That's the station at Yelm. It lasted longer than the other stations between Lakeview and Tenino. I think there was always a hope with the people of Yelm that there were going to be a big industrial center. And there's the typical agent. They were required to wear a cap, just like a conductor brakeman. The agent had his agent's cap.